Yeah, man. Absolutely.
Hello.
Everybody, this is James Robertson. Thank you, James, for showing with us. It's been a great 3 days. Really, something completely special for this particular space. So,
What I've been telling friends is that I've been sleeping on a bed that was made for the Queen. And it's true. In what year?
1953.
Is it a blue one?
No, it's pink. Yeah, southand.
So Jim and Marcella have a disused Presbyterian church that they brought with the gallery, and it houses guest artists. So as I've been installing, I've had this wonderful serene space to chill out, and like I say, the bed, the Queen did sleep in. So that's a bit of a thrill for someone who comes from Christchurch. So my name is James Robinson, and it was interesting that Peter mentioned that he was a high school tutor in 1972, and that was the year of my birth. So much respect to my elder there. I'll cut to the chase. The work is about, and I sort of want to address the question that the gentleman asked Peter about the relevancy of wood in a digital, postmodern, post-structural age in terms of the ideas of art and the information. So I am attempting to address the sense of what's happening to communal consciousness and culture in a globalised environment. I am using an archaic, that is to say an old form of rendering information, painting, which was technology back in the day, Renaissance. I am giving myself free play, and not as a child like Picasso or Dubuffet would have done unconscious mannerisms like the cave paintings. I am giving myself free play as an informed adult who has travelled the world, been to cultural centres like New York and Berlin, but also third world countries like Nepal and Morocco. So places where there are these very large class distinctions. Some of my concerns are around Pacific identity specifically, and although I am not of any ethnicity of indigenous people from this region, I was born on this island, and I find myself in an awkward crack between a European and American and British sensibility and, who are we as bicultural citizens. So for me, this is inside the brain and nervous system of myself, but also part of the travels I've done around the world. It's 5 years worth of material from various residencies I've done in New Zealand, and rainbow is about light, and that's a conveyance of information. And serpent is about a wave, a sine wave, so constant movement. And although it sounds Aboriginal, it is Aboriginal, but most indigenous cultures on Earth had notions of serpent, reptile, dragon, taniwha, naga, across all these primordial, the kundalini in the Hindu, this is a snake, The medicine from the Greeks, it's a snake. So what I'm talking about is gnosis, the idea of knowledge, self-knowledge, the internal investigation of being a conscious human being. Yes, this is like I'm masticating, I'm chewing, I'm digesting the metaphysical sort of self-awareness of being an artist in an age which perpetually pulls us out of ourselves. We live in an externalized cult and fetish of object and materialism and ego and mind. And I'm completely engaged in this illusion as well, because I am an artist. But there is a self-awareness around that, and everything has come from an internal observation of my own psychosis. And that psychosis is part of the human condition. We are thresholding on this planet to the point of extinction. This is my primary concern, and always has been, the idea of apocalypse and revelation and what that means. I do have great hope for the future, but it will come at a huge cost, and I think the transformation we are in now. We in Gore and the South Island specifically are very guarded and protected from what is happening in the world. I'm not saying I have huge amounts of political details and awarenesses. I'm not a political scientist, and I'm not an aid worker in Africa with a charity or anything like this, but I did get brought up by a very informed, strong feminist woman on the protest marches around apartheid, women's rights, all sorts of issues, and I suppose the internal conflict of the idea of safety in the home have always sort of been part of my narrative, if you like. There's a disposability about the work, you know, there's a vulnerability and disposability. It's not about an object, this is about free play, free thinking. You know, this is the far left, if you like, of what you might call painting. And in New York, there is much more far left things than this. So far left, you don't get any material object anymore. I'm pretty traditional, believe it or not. And as the artist goes through their own psyche, they peel layers off, like a tree, like a nuclear tree, heat of information. So these are my layers coming off. And it's a process. I'm engaged in a process of maturity. One of the things about our age is that I have to constantly try and sell, to develop, to sell, to develop. You know, in the old days, I might not have had a show until I was in my 60s or something. And I'm far enough down the road to see how the cult of our modern idea of success is compromised by the market system of values we have. So I'm trying to keep a balance between the formal framed object, which are genuine footprints of the process too, and this is the bushwalk. This is me going through the ideology of our age, or all calc of ideology. I've written all through it, you know. I did graffiti when I was young, and I wanted to make art instead. I gained a lot of inspiration from the beat poets of America, the counterculture movement, and also Dada and Surrealism and Expressionism, of course. But I think there's something really feral and cargo culture. And for those who don't know what cargo culture means, that's one of the main examples of that is Papua New Guinea tribes finding American comics washed up from crashed ships, and they will incorporate the characters in the superhero comics into their indigenous tribal gods. So you would see a phantom on a shield, you know, a phantom Marvel comic character. You would see a Captain America inside an indigenous tribe's mythology. So in this way, in globalism and the realm of myth that I'm very interested in, because I think myth, even in the age of information, I think myth roots us to a more archetypal and unconscious primordial connection to the planet, Atman, the world soul. And regardless of the sheath, the nervous system of a robotic android that covers us all, whether that's economy or your TV or your laptop presence or whatever that stuff. I think that world soul is eternally what we're part of, and it's the consciousness of the planet. That's what every Indigenous people on the planet know. That's what we are too. We're not separate, you know. And that's basically the guts of the legitimacy of myself being here, actually, you know, as a human. So I want art to have a sense of that primordial and groundedness, and try and deal with, you know, modernity. I've thought a lot about this because I've had a lot of time, but there's other aspects in this which I think are worth mentioning. Some key pivotal moments in our current time frame are things like we've mapped the genome. You know, the building blocks of what it is to be human. The patents are owned by American corporations, if not the American Army. Okay? So, the future of us can be designed by people with complete agendas, and probably already have been. Issues like the Buddhists have a notion of consciousness when it leaves the body, of having a flash of all the memories and experiences you've ever had in this life. And many people have reported to have had memory flashes of all lives. So there's a review of all your moments. And in that way, I'm also trying to induce a sense of overwhelming nervous system response of embedded memory. And maybe this is what I'm going through in a sort of frenzy. Yeah, so there's a lot of ways to see. So that's lots of talking from a guy who's had 3 coffees. Thanks very much for coming, and I hope you enjoy it. I hope you're disturbed and confronted, and I hope you buy one of those nice frame drawings, please. Okay, sure.
Thank you everybody, and especially thank you to Peter and James. Feel free to avail yourselves of some more refreshments, and if anybody's interested